Welcome to the Deschutes County Board of Commissioners meeting. This is 1 p.m. Monday, November 24th, 2025. First item is citizen input. We have a few requests to speak. Mr. Alsher, thank you for joining us again.
Good afternoon. My name is Al Shert. They knows me pretty well by now, I think. This regards to what I touched on last week from the 40 acres. Some things came up that I wasn't aware of. I didn't know Mr. Darrell was going to be running for Congress last week until the end of last week. I just want to kind of go over this again and touch on a couple things on the county getting involved in acquiring that land. I don't know if this is even possible, but I want to ask the board to just table this for a while. You guys got enough things going on. There's enough elections. There's enough other board members coming in. Table it until after this election, and then if it's right to do now, it'll be right to do then, in my opinion. And so, come back in June or whenever. I don't know. Is it May, April, May? Right there when the elections are, do them then, and then everybody come, bring all five commissioners, come to the quarry and see what we have to offer before you make the decision that another quarry is needed 2 miles down the road and push to that on. I mean, Commissioner Bone's the only one that's actually came to the quarry and seen our site. It's not a small quarry by any means. And the stretch of the imagination, it's not a small quarry. This is a very large quarry. It's got potential to be even larger than one of the biggest ones in Central Oregon, I think. I don't know. So if that's the case, I'd like that. You know, I'm asking the board to do that, commissioners to do that, if there's any possibility of that. I'm hoping that it's not being pushed so hard right now before the elections. I'm hoping that's not the case, because I don't want, that's not good on any part, right? And if it's about trying to raise money for the county has 650 parcels of land that they can get rid of some of those if they need to raise money. I mean, if that's what it's all about, putting money into the fund, then sell some of them lands, or lower the price on some of the sales of those lands, or put them up for public auction, take the highest bids. I mean, there's plenty of property to go around without acquiring more from the federal government. I also feel like if the county really wanted to be in the mining business, the county should open a rock quarry, but I don't think that works that way. I mean, I just think the county is reaching into a private business that had 30 years to prepare for the position they're in right now, and they didn't do it. That isn't up to the county to bail them out at this point, and that's what it looks like and from my perspective, it's happening. Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to, so Mr. Shert, are you asking to wait until congressional elections are over, or commissioner elections are
Commissioner
over, or both? So just to be clear on that, it is possible that seats will change in May, or it's possible that new commissioners will be elected in May. It's also very possible that those elections are going to run till November. Either way, even if someone is able to win a seat outright in May, they won't be sworn in until January 2027.
Oh, gotcha.
So,
okay.
So we're not talking about just kind of waiting, 6 months.
Right.
We would, if you would like this reviewed by a future board of county commissioners, there's not the composition, at least as far as I know, isn't going to change until January 2027.
Gotcha. Okay. but I'm not aware of it.
Yeah,
I'm not political enough to know how this exactly works, so.
you don't need to be, or you shouldn't need to be, but that's kind of the background on at least the commissioners.
Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us today. Next is Stephanie Elstead.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Olsted. I'm the CEO for Jaybird Youth Services. And I just wanted to come let you know about, we're the only youth service provider in Central Oregon. And we do prevention, intervention, treatment. So we have a whole host of programs under Jaybird J, from prevention, Big Brothers Big Sisters, Kindred Connections, working with Department of Human Services. We have Cascade Youth and Family, 3 different shelters, the Loft, Grandma's House for pregnant and parenting teens, the Loft for homeless, and then Canal House in Redmond. And then we also do anti-trafficking, as well as independent living skills with kids coming out of foster care, and treatment for adolescent kids males that have committed crime, a vocational school education. So we have a whole bundle of stuff. So, and thank you for allowing me to come give some community input. Recently, we had a bunch of changes at our facility at Jaybird J, and one of our staff who represented our youth in the homeless efforts left in June. And so we've been asking to get a seat at a lot of these tables just to continue to advocate for youth. And it's pretty confusing. And we've been working with Central Oregon Intergovernmental Council, COIC, and this is a map of all the different housing stuff. And we want to advocate for kids. So we want a seat at the table because it was a priority in the last few years to serve kids. And what we find is working with kids, we can actually prevent them from becoming homeless adults. We just had one girl, and I'm so proud of her, who lived at the Loft for 1.5 years. She saved all her money, worked 3 jobs, and left with a new apartment, a car, and she's going into the National Guard. And then once she's done with that, they'll pay for her education to go into nursing. And we cut her this huge check, and it was really fun. So that's what we want. And so that's our goal. But when we got into this, we ran into some problems. And I will say last year we received a chunk of money from the governor's executive order money. October, the multi-agency coordination group, or MAC group, met, and they approved for us to have a 20% reduction. I guess there's like about 10 different agencies that get funding. And then November, just a month later, COIC came back to us and said, oh no, your reduction is really more like 46% from last year's. And we're like, we can't do that. We can't serve as many kids as we served last time. And so they said, well, your numbers are just too high. And so part of me wanted to come to say, hey, help us out here. We can't continue to do all the great services and work with kids that we do without some help. But COIC came back this morning and said, oh, we're going to make your reduction 33% instead of 46%. Still different from the 20%, but it's more livable. And by doing some fundraising, looking for some grants, looking for some additional money, we probably can make that work. So, but I still want to say, I mean, our goal is to reduce homelessness. And when I tried to understand this, all these different entities, it's really confusing. And I work in the industry. And so we hired a gentleman who ran a continuum of care in Ohio, and they reduced homelessness by 30% by streamlining and coordinating and not having all this stuff, by having a couple main groups. And so I just want to advocate for Central Oregon that we can do better, that we can reduce homelessness if we all work together and we coordinate this better. And so I just want to be an advocate for kids and an advocate for Central Oregon. And that's it. I don't need anything.
So you said a couple of times trying to get a seat at the table. So are you saying you want to be part of some of those working groups? And
Absolutely.
you're not being invited or
Yes, yes,
or are
we,
you saying you wanna reorganize stuff to make it more
well,
simpler and more coordinated by a few?
I would say two things. One, we had a hard time engaging and getting on those groups. One, Tom Bonington, who used to work for the federal government, now works for us. He's the one who did the continuum of care. And there was big signs saying, hey, we need board members for the HLC. And he applied and they said, oh, sorry, it's full. And so, and then on the MAC group, we tried to get on and Tammy said, oh, you have to wait until we make our funding decisions because it would be a conflict of interest. So now they have been invited. And so one is, yeah, just getting at the table. And I think we're getting there now. To really honestly answer your question, I think we're close. But the other piece is, yeah, I think with Tom's experience, it would be lovely to have a conversation with Tammy, and I've tried, I've emailed her a few times and I know she's super busy, but to try and streamline this more.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I'm not sure when that graphic is from, but
They just put it into the
some of
state.
these things, like Housing for All doesn't, as far as I know, doesn't exist. We're trying to figure out how to merge the Coordinated Homeless Response Office into the Regional Housing Council right now, so.
Oh, that'd be great. Good.
I think some of what you're asking for is already happening.
Oh, that'd be excellent.
But I certainly think for many of those tables that you showed us, COIC is the right place to
Yes.
be
And we
engaging.
wanna engage
So
with them.
would encourage you to have more discussions with Tammy, get Mickey Girding, their basically their point staff who works on housing and housing and security issues. And together with I forget the name of the guy.
Tom.
And discuss what's going on with all those groups, and because I do believe that some of your desire for consolidation and simplification is happening.
Excellent. So this was from Tenfold November 17th, so they
Yeah,
did a
but that
presentation, but the graphic is
That
old.
graphic is old. I mean,
Okay.
I've seen that before. I mean, and
It does say 2024 on it, you're right, though, so.
yeah, no, I mean, I think it's even older than that.
Oh, okay.
But,
No, thank you, and I'd love to hear more of your thoughts, but I'm glad that we are headed that way. And we just wanna advocate to be better Central Oregon, and we wanna advocate for youth. And so we just wanna be at the table, and we also have a housing program, we have the shelter program, we do a lot.
yeah,
And
I'd be happy to have it when I'm with you as
Great.
well, but like I said,
I know.
COIC, they're the ones like at the center of
I
this.
know, and
So,
believe me, I've
good people
emailed
to talk.
Tammy and I'll keep emailing her. Anyway, unless anybody else have questions?
Stephanie, thank you for coming in. What is that dollar difference then that you're gonna have to fundraise for, have bake sales, that 13%? Do you know what it is now?
It's probably,
33%.
No, she
yeah, we
said,
went,
but it was cut down 20% and you were gonna live with that. And now it's back up to, it's only a third.
33%, yeah, it got cut 46% and now it's at 33%, which I gotta say, I mean, and I realized the state was late, but that's really tough on an agency to not, almost 6 months in and to not have any contract and just be, and we're fronting the money obviously to pay for all the services. So it's really tough on an agency and to redo the budget about 10 times. So we're just complaining that we couldn't get the budget to the program managers yet because it's not done. So hopefully this will be it, but the dollar difference was probably around 100 to 150,000.
Okay, that's kind of what I was thinking you were gonna
Yeah.
have to deal with. So.
Yeah.
Thank you
And
so much for coming in and letting us know.
Thank you. Thank you all for listening. And yeah, we want to help. So
Keep doing what you do. Thank you,
Okay.
Stephanie.
This time, commissioner announcements.
I think everyone in the room already heard that the Hefner Mustangs are playing Saturday at 1 at Summit High School for the
This is
state
important information.
football championship. It's been 6 years since they've been in this position, and it was an awesome turnout for the semis. I couldn't believe how many people were here from Hefner, so. And let's hope that it's beautiful a Saturday in Bend.
Any other-
Well, I wanted to ask Commissioner Adair about the run for Congress. I am curious whether we should be revisiting our meeting schedule, our committee assignments, things like that. Because running for Congress, when most of the district is on the other side of the mountains, could be a pretty time-consuming process.
Well, I'd love to get on the Wolf Committee. If I was gonna bring something, I'll think about that. You know, I already drove 79,000 miles in the last 3 years, so I do feel that I service, and I was in Salem a lot the last couple of years, so it will be, I'll consider that. Thank you.
Do we want to look at having less Monday meetings, for example, or more Monday meetings, less Wednesday meetings, anything like that?
You know, I haven't gotten that. It's only November. But I will definitely think about it with my team and see what they recommend. Thank you.
Well, it'd be, I wanna plan my life, so, if we need to make any accommodations, it's helpful for all of us to know as soon as possible. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Okay, so at this time, consent agenda, couple sets of minutes, I see that.
That was the only thing that I found. Thank you, Brenda, for copying that.
Then, is there a change?
Yes, it was 200,000 on the original, and
Oh, okay,
I took a picture of it and said it was 20.
Yeah.
So I got that
so
updated.
that's been changed already, good, okay.
Mhm.
And then, OHA, so shelter beds for young adults, I thought maybe Stephanie was gonna talk about that, but this is different dollars, Oregon Health Authority.
Well, she wouldn't be allowed to because it's on our agenda. It's an item that's on our agenda.
Thank you for being so precise, yes. Anything else? Or a motion?
So moved, Adair, for the consent agenda?
Second.
And any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Adair,
Yes.
Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Courthouse expansion update. Just a regular 1 o'clock, but I guess we slipped a little bit.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. We'll start with introductions. Lee Randall, Facilities Director.
Eric Nielsen, Capital Improvement Manager.
Wayne Matterly, Coming Group, Owners Rep. Corey Lewis, Fence Contractors.
And our presentation will follow the typical format that we've used over the last several months. And we'll start with Eric.
Okay. So yeah, as kind of the usual update, we'll talk about construction progress, upcoming work, look at the construction timeline, and then finally end with an update on the budget. So as you can see in the webcam photo, a lot's happened over the last several months. The main bulk and mass of the building has been constructed. Exterior walls all the way up to the roof. And then you can see the construction of the public lobby is in progress down along Bond Street. So moving inside the building, the phase 1 of the existing renovation has been ongoing and is nearing completion. So that's a renovation of some existing offices in the existing courthouse to construct a few new private offices for state courts, as well as an office for Saving Grace. And we're targeting turning Saving Grace's space over to them on December 5th. And then shortly after, move in furniture and turn it over to state courts. So this is phase 1. Once this is complete, they'll move on to phase 2, which will kind of shift state court offices around, and they'll start constructing the hearing room, which will be behind the public service counter windows. So this was, originally we had kind of thought this would happen after the expansion was complete, but with Pence worked hard on the schedule and we figured out how to start it much earlier rather than on the back end of the project. So exterior walls, as I said, the exterior framing is complete. We had the weather barrier system installed. The window openings are been treated with the fluid applied membrane, which the windows will get sealed to. This is kind of the big step towards getting the weather or the building dried in. So the weather barrier is part of that system. We have plastic on the windows to keep the weather out, and that allows Pence to start pumping heat into the basement that heats up the building from the basement up to the third floor. Some other views along Harriman Street and along Greenwood. You can see in the image on the right that the window frames have started to be installed on the first floor. The glass isn't installed yet, but they're starting to work around the floor, getting frames in. And finally, the exterior walls are working off the existing roof to construct part of the exterior walls at that, the integration of the existing new expansion. So this working off scaffolding off the existing roof to get that done. And yeah, public lobby. So big step was getting the cross laminated timber roof structure delivered and installed. So you can see that both images. As we mentioned, the underside of that cross laminated timber will remain when the project's complete. And you can start to see kind of how that lobby is going to start shaping up. They're prepping for the floor slab, which was actually poured today. So the finishes in this space will be a polished concrete floor, cross laminated timber ceiling, and then storefront glazing along the west side. Moving into the parking garage, the exterior wall masonry is constructed. They've ran electrical and plumbing rough in, so you can see drain lines coming down, some electrical conduit, and then the image on the right, they've started installing stick pins, which will allow them to install insulation to the underside of the slab. And then lots of progress on mechanical and plumbing rough in. This is level 1 on the left and level 3 on the right, but you can see lots of piping's been installed with hydronic lines that are insulated, white insulation, and then on the right, you can see drain lines and copper water supply lines installed. And some more on level 1. This is the state court's main open office area. So the ductwork's been installed, plumbing's been roughed in, and then start to see that they've started hanging drywall on this floor too. Actually progressed into painting last week. So I'm starting to get finishes installed. Couple images of the courtrooms. The walls are framed up, the drywall's been hung, and then they've started framing the soffit pieces off the ceiling that will kind of allow the different ceiling heights to be built. The lower one on the right will be above where the jury sits, and then you kind of see the judge's bench structure coming up the wall and wraps out onto the ceiling. Also, yeah, they've worked their way up to the roof. The 2 penthouses are framed, they have weather barrier on.
Does that mean someone's gonna stay in them? You're calling them a penthouse?
Well, it's not as glamorous as it sounds.
I know, I think it sounds way too glamorous.
Yeah, so the penthouse on the left is that's for the stairs that go to the roof. And then if you're into mechanical equipment, the penthouse on the right will have the boilers and other exciting equipment up there.
Okay,
It does kind of look like somebody just stuck an ADU up there.
Yeah. We forgot windows, so.
we can put them in.
Yeah. So along with that, they're working on the main roof and the tie-in to the penthouse structures. These are just some overview pictures of the installation of the roof. We've got insulation staged up there and other equipment. They've kind of been working their way from the east side of the roof to the west side. Along with this, they're working on the roof down on the main lobby too. So I'll turn it over to Corey for upcoming work.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. So over the next 4 to 6 weeks, that phase one existing renovation, so that's that remodel portion back in the existing courthouse. So looking to get that wrapped up here shortly. And like Eric mentioned, we'll be kind of flipping folks that were in the other area over to the next, and we'll be starting on the new hearing room. So that hearing room is right behind the existing transaction windows. So we'll kind of parcel that area off and start working on that remodel portion there. That roofing installation at main roof and lobby, I mean, that's really a critical element. So getting fully dried in and that sort of thing. And we're in pretty darn good shape at this stage. We know weather's coming right around the corner. So that's been a huge focus to maintaining heat and keeping the weather out. Really one of the big ones is going to be that exterior wall piece. You know, we're dried in for purposes that makes the city happy for inspections. We can proceed with pulling wire and all that good stuff. But really getting going on really the finish aesthetic element. So that's the all the paneling, all the metal panels, the flashing, the windows and all that sort of thing. So that's really going to be something that's ramping up over the next 4 to 6 weeks. We've gone through pretty great pains to make it look perfect. You guys, a lot of you, I think, have seen the mock-up that we did down in Lafayette. That was a labor of love to make sure design and intent and all that all comes together to look right on the building. So we're excited to get it going in earnest. And then MEP, that'll continue. We're well ahead through that process over the past few months. Just in terms of that process, but it'll continue to go on for the next 4 to 6 weeks and beyond. We started building commissioning, so that's a third-party group that comes in and inspects and makes sure that we're doing what the plans and specs tell us to do. So that's something we love. It's a process that we're doing on this project. They're a great asset for us. And then continuing on drywall, ceilings, and finishes. I think we actually put some accent colors on the wall, which was exciting. There's a nice green color for everybody to see. So yeah, it's progressing nicely. And then big picture, we're well out of all the structural elements, working through building exterior, about a third of the way through there, well into the building interior pieces flowing from basement up to third floor. And then there's going to be a phasing piece where as we get through building exterior, we'll start on some of the site work improvements. So you see that December timeframe there, just pecking away at little pieces around the building. In general, we're going to try and work from Harriman and work clockwise around the building. So the hope is that we start getting the exterior moving well along on Harriman, and then we'll start doing some of the sidewalk improvements and that sort of thing as we kind of work our way around the building. As Eric mentioned, the existing building renovations, I mean, we've always kind of targeted that being a phased approach to when the expansion wraps up, but we've been able to get a little bit of a jump on that, which will be nice. Just we get to the end of the project and everybody's moving in and everyone's excited. It'll be, you know, a little less cumbersome. It's been pecking away at some of those things right now. So,
What about the road, like in the front of the courthouse? All the sidewalk barriers or something, they're gonna be set back for the winter or snow or anything, or just be like that for the rest of the time?
yeah, we're planning on keeping them there, just in the sense of creating a little bit of elbow room. I say that on a downtown city block, but a little bit of elbow room to move lifts around safely and all that sort of thing. We can of course adjust those, you know, a little bit in and out if needed. If we have a snow year like was it 2017 that
Yes, it was.
yeah, so
You mean this?
If you can't see them
The 5 feet.
anymore, so they're just-
yeah.
But yeah, so they'll
couldn't
basically be out there till spring.
Yeah.
That's all I was thinking.
Yep. That's it.
Any other questions?
Great.
Move on to the budget update.
Budget, we're still looking strong and on track, $48,400,006. To date, at the end of October, cost to date and billings in is $30,591,093, which is about 63% of total, with a balance of 17.8 million left to spend. We still have good amount of contingency left in both the GC contingency bucket and in the county's owner contingency bucket. And at this point in the project, that's nice to say that we still have a good contingency cushion there left to get us through to the end. Other than that, yeah, all's looking good and on track.
And I'll just highlight one thing we talked about the last few months, is that we had some changes that came through the permit process, mainly for the infrastructure work along Bond Street. That pricing is still not reflected in this current update. We expect that we'll have that soon. Pence is working hard to finalize what those additional costs will look like. Still, the contingencies are strong, and that increased cost we expect to be well within our contingency, with still plenty to finish out the rest of the project. But it's just an upcoming change that we'll have more information on either at our December update or January. Any questions related to the budget?
It'll be interesting to kind of look back and figure out, was this kind of bid and built at the peak of this, inflationary cycle? I don't know that we're gonna go backwards, but I mean, this whole project has been trying to keep up with that inflation as we're trying to build it. Just amazing. But yeah, a little look backwards a year or two from now, it'll be interesting to say, oh yeah, that was the environment we were in.
In general, I mean, we've experienced, usually we tag about 1.25% per quarter. So you think about when we bid this out, I mean, you could add almost 1.25.
Yeah.
Historically, that's what we've had over the past few years. So that's a pretty good calculator you could throw on it to have a good sense of what this would have been if.
We even getting it built bid originally,
Right.
it was escalating us.
Yeah, last week among county administrators, courthouse funding was a major topic. And some were talking about in Eastern Oregon in particular, that construction costs for big commercial buildings are now in the $1,400 to $2,000 per square foot. And that's, you're saying that's correct. And for us, it came down to, Lee shared it with me last week.
We're in the high 800s at this
Okay.
point, so 850 to 875 per square foot.
Gosh.
Yeah. Difference in 2.5 years. Yeah.
Yeah, we're seeing more competition from subs, which is great, but suppliers and commodities and those things that really actually kind of drive costs down has not started to come down.
One other budget question I have. So you described that an infrastructure piece that's just come up that, we got it covered within contingency. I guess, on that contingency front, I'm curious for how far along we are in this project. Are you feeling pretty confident that, we're covered for anything that might come up with the contingency that we have? Are we almost in the clear?
Yeah, the trend that you like to see is that as the project progresses, your contingency percentage increases. And that's what we're seeing. So at the contractor level contingency, we're at 10%. That had started lower. And similarly, on the county's contingency, we've gone from about 4.5% to 4.7%. We're currently sitting at 6.7%. The costs that we're expecting at this point, which we don't have finalized, I think as we get closer to that completion, I doubt we'll drop back below the 4% that we started at. So I think we're still going to be carrying that similar percentage through the end of the project, and that's our target.
That's nice. I'll just say seeing that cross-laminated timber ceiling in the lobby. It's cool.
It is.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen it in person yet, but it looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks.
Next item, wolf distribution of remaining grants for wolf depredation.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Jen Patterson, Strategic Initiatives Manager. So just here today for a quick update. The Wolf Committee last met on November 17th. There is some remaining funds from the $50,000 that the county received for the last funding cycle, the 2024 funding cycle. They do theirs on a annual cycle, not a fiscal year cycle. 2025 cycle. Getting my years confused here. So the county received $50,000. To date, $46,128.66 have been spent. That includes an established new program, a carcass removal program that the committee is working in conjunction with USDA Wildlife Services and ODFW to remove carcasses from known wolf areas of activity to help reduce or hopefully prevent some conflict there. So that left over a total remaining balance of $3,871.34. Before the committee met, per recommendation from the last committee meeting, the one in September, I reached out to all applicants who have received non-lethal preventative measure funding and or depredation funding from the Wolf Committee in the past, and opened up the opportunity to apply for additional grant dollars. Us letting them know a small amount was available. We heard back from one of the grant receivers, and that was the Hatfield High Land Trust. They have had some activity on their ranch. They have preventative measures in place, and they're continuing to build preventative measures, including this specific fencing and pen. And they requested additional funding for that preventative measures that they are actively pursuing. So the committee met, and they are recommending to grant an additional $3,000 to Hatfield High Land Trust and to leave $871.34 for the carcass removal program. If that is not spent, the funds need to be expended by January 31st. So if that is not spent fully down by then or by mid-January, then the committee is recommending using any additional funds out of that carcass removal program to go towards wildlife cameras that ODF and W actively buy and monitor and keep up in wolf activity areas. So with that being said, I'll pause, but that is the request on the table for the remaining about $3,800 for those funds. Any questions?
So how many cattle does the Hatfield operation run?
I don't know, but it's not part of the question we ask in the application process.
Okay, just was curious because, as I told you, people that I'm hearing from, ranchers that I'm hearing from, not my family, but that the cattle pregnancy now is down to 82%. And as I told you, we have the fewest cows that we've had in this country since 1950s. And if you have 18 cows out of every 100 cows that are not pregnant and they get dumped, and you get a lot of money for them right now, but then your herd is just getting smaller and smaller, and it's really quite frightening what is happening, because as I was given a personal experience, the cows quit drinking. A wolf pack started circling the herd, and if you weren't really paying attention, you wouldn't know of course they immediately, in not that long of a period of time, they started like really looking gant, and they were drinking. So, and the fact that they're not getting pregnant, I really worry about those ranchers out there. And, I know they killed a pregnant cow 4 miles from Heppner last week, and it was documented. So it's definitely the wolf herds, the packs are getting braver. And apparently we had some problems over in Crook County too. So whatever we can do, I just wondered how many cows they ran.
Yeah, I don't know. And I know that their land does go in Crook County as well. So it's
okay, so we're helping them out.
Yeah, and Crook, so they received some funding last time. They just found out our grant application like days before the last application deadline. So their grant application that they was put through in a really quick process, just because of just learning about that opportunity. But I know that they're working with both wolf depredation committees, both at Crook County and Deschutes County.
So they've already gotten 10,000, and this would help them a little bit more.
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
the pen that, it's a pen for calving, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So the pen they wanna build is gonna kind of following along the concern about about pregnancies and and calving, this pen will help ensure that more of the calves that are born aren't predated when they're small. So, yeah, and then just kind of to catch my fellow commissioners up on the situation. You know, basically these three ranches, McCormick, Hatfield High, I trust, Desert Creek Ranch, because of where they're situated in relation to the Maoris and the Southern Ojibos, the McCormick Ranch is kind of the closest to the you know, where the wolves come from on a regular basis, and then the other two are still close enough that they get some of the visitation as well. And you know, I'm hopeful that these funds are going to be very helpful in preventing future depredations, you know, on these properties. So my question, Jen, was we have granted out blocks of money to these three livestock producers. They're going to, at the end of the cycle, they're going to like deliver us back basically an accounting of how they've expended the funds. If they don't expend all the funds, then do they have to give them back to us, and then we have to give them back to the state?
I believe that would be the process, yeah. I haven't run up against that, but being active in many calls with the state, I would assume that that's how that process goes. Yeah, say that they provide reports and receipts for accountability levels of the funding that they get from us.
And I mean, I'm not too worried about it, because I mean, each of these, well, at least the McCormicks, they could have used way more money than they got. So I assume that they're going to be able to expend everything that they got, but yeah, it'll be, you know, I just wanted to understand that a little better.
Yep.
The other thing to kind of share from the Wolf Committee, from like a policy and you know, public finance perspective, is the Senate Bill 777 was passed this last legislative session. So now there are opportunities for livestock producers who've experienced depredation to get a multiplier on you know, not just to be compensated for the full market value of the animal that was lost, but to get a multiplier for, you know, essentially what kind of future value could that animal have provided to you. You know, if it's a female, you know, it's a cow, and they could have reproduced in future years, it's, you know, you want to compensate people for more than just the current, you know, what you could have sold that cow for auction at, you know, at the time of death. The weight loss, or you know, the lack of weight gain across the herd, you know, for being stressed out, lower fertility rates, those kinds of things. So that'll be an interesting piece of the discussion at the Wolf Committee in the next year, or in the next cycle, in January. And I guess one of the things I would say is I'm actually concerned that they passed this bill to allow this multiplier, which I think is great, but they didn't appropriate any more money. So the same amount of money distributed in different ways, it creates opportunities for there to just be a lot less to go around for all the places that need it.
Currently, all the deaths in Wallowa County are gonna suck up all the money that's allocated for next year. And if you're losing, you know, 18% of your herd, normally it's 3% not pregnant. This is seriously impacting the ranchers in the state. And I do believe that cattle is at the top. Now, the fact that I just saw twins, half-grown, looking healthy deer right down the road from my house, I was thrilled about that. I also had someone send me a picture of a fawn in a wolf's mouth in Sisters. So how many fawns did they kill? You know, we're watching how many calves they've killed or how many cows they've killed, but how many fawns have they killed in Deschutes County? It was really nice to see the fawns. Their mother must know the safest people to live around.
That's actually a good opportunity to connect back to the appointment that the Wolf Depredation and Financial Compensation and Financial Assistance Committee made to the board that we just approved on our consent agenda. So Carl Findling, the new business appointee on the committee, is a longtime member of the Oregon Hunters Association. He runs a hunting equipment company. They design packs and other things for hunters. So he will be there at the committee to help us think about not just the potential predation of wolves on livestock, but also the predation of wolves on wildlife. The wildlife that people want to prey on as well. So I'm guessing that the kinds of concerns that you're raising are going to be raised by our new hunter member of the committee.
Your motion.
Yes. So move to approve the distribution of the remaining grant funds as recommended by the Wolf Depredation and Financial Compensation Committee.
Second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Dare?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
And Chair will vote yes.
The one other thing I'd say about the committee is, Commissioner Dare, you are always welcome to come attend the meetings if you're interested.
Thank you. Next item, 11, Treasury Report for October 2025. Show me the money.
Show me the money.
Where's the money? Where's the money?
We know where it is.
Good.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, Bill Kuhn, Deschutes County Treasurer. Thanks for allowing me to present the October Treasurer's Report. First, I would like to just make a comment on the wolf depredation discussion that you just had. Having grown up in a ranching family over in the John Day area, and we're seeing wolves in areas that we've never seen them before. And I think one of the biggest challenges going forward is just trying to figure out the non-quantifiable financial losses with lost lower pregnancy rates and trying to figure out what that future value might be in that herd. So I think it's an area that we all need to stay on top of. They're not being regulated, and they are, like I said, they're in areas that we've never seen them before and having a significant financial impact, which leads me directly into my treasurer's report.
Thank you.
And the unquantifiable or the not as well quantified things that you.
Yeah, it's intrinsic.
That's what the multiplier is for.
Yeah, and I'm fearful that it's not going to be enough.
Doesn't cover it.
Well.
Yeah, when you're talking about.
Especially if the state didn't appropriate enough money.
Yeah.
I mean, the legislature passed this.
Yeah,
bill,
I think having a
and they
reality
didn't,
check.
and they didn't increase the amount of money. So it's, you basically just made it possible for there to be a whole lot more requests with the same amount.
With very limited funds to support that. Yeah, again, couldn't agree more. I think it's an area that we need to continue to stay engaged in. So
I mean, actually, that's one other thing I'll mention, since we've got a member, since we've got a congressional candidate on our board of commissioners now, I will mention for the fiscal year that we are, that the federal government just wrapped up in October, or at the end of September, Senator Merkley, while he was still a central figure on the Agriculture Appropriations Subcommittee and Interior Appropriations Subcommittee, he had arranged in the budget for there to be a $1 million increase in federal contributions to these wolf depredation compensation functions in the states. Unfortunately, for that year, we didn't get a budget passed. We got continuing resolutions that for the entire year. So even though there was $1 million more in the budget that for that year, we the states never got that money because that budget was never passed. So these are things that members of Congress can work on.
So without further ado, I'll go ahead and make a few comments on the high-level overview of economic conditions. As we're all aware, on November 10th, the Senate passed an agreement by a 60-40 vote, which is the minimum amount of pro votes they needed to approve a continuing resolution to fund the federal government through January 30th. So since the bill passed, the House again, and was signed by President Trump, the shutdown ended at 41 days. This was the longest government shutdown in history. With the shutdown in the rearview mirror, the focus is now in the Senate on an upcoming vote on healthcare subsidies through the Affordable Care Act, as it continues to be a major issue. Negotiations to end the shutdown, it was promised that the Senate would bring this issue to a vote sometime in mid-December. So I think that's still kind of out there right now. We expect to have some action on that before the end of the year. Both parties have claimed victory in the stalemate, which may never be proven. It is estimated that the U.S. lost $11 billion in gross domestic product during the recent shutdown. So there was a significant financial impact to that. And we're starting to see the ripple effects throughout the economy. During one of the things that has been allowed to lapse is that during the government shutdown, key economic reports were delayed. Last Thursday, the Bureau of Labor Statistics released the September jobs report, which showed employers added 119,000 jobs for the month of September, which was significantly higher than the median economist estimate of 51,000. So it over doubled what was estimated, but it was significantly delayed. The unemployment rate, even though the jobs number came in stronger, the unemployment rate rose to 4.4%, which was the highest in 4 years as the labor force grew. So there were more people trying to enter the job force than there were available jobs to employ them with. The mixed job report, especially the increase in the unemployment rate, is expected to increase expectations for another rate cut when the Federal Reserve meets on December 10th and 11th. Minutes from the last meeting, the November meeting, showed strong division among officers on another rate cut. Currently, they're assigning a 34% chance of another 25 basis point rate cut in December, but a much higher probability for a January cut. So the Fed's going to meet again in January. Fed officials remain challenged in balancing the competing goals of what appears to be a deteriorating labor market. However, the September job numbers came in much stronger than that versus, but it's really the high unemployment rate that they're really focused on right now, and still sticky inflation.
I mean, you can add a lot of jobs if you lay off a bunch of people too.
Yeah, and we're seeing some significant reductions with large corporations that have announced pretty high cuts. So again, it's an area that we want to continue to kind of stay focused on. The central bank, again, I've talked about this before, is navigating an economy that is largely reshaped by sweeping policy initiatives, including more aggressive tariffs that have raised costs for manufacturers and small businesses. And we're still kind of seeing the effects on consumer prices as companies are actively managing supply chains and also pricing strategies going forward. Another delayed report was the October 2025 CPI report, which was scheduled to be released on December 13th, has been delayed indefinitely due to the government shutdown. There is uncertainty whether this report will be released at all because the data collection was interrupted during the shutdown. For comparison, now the last CPI report that we have is actually the one that was released on October 24th, which was the September report, and it revealed a 3% annual increase and a 0.3% monthly increase year over year. This September report was used to establish the annual cost of living adjustment and Social Security benefit checks, which was established at 2.8% for the coming year. Other than that, the federal government suspended all data compilation and reporting during the shutdown. So we've got this lapse in statistical reporting that likely will not be recovered. And basically we'll just, start up probably with December reporting, which should occur in January. So along with other governmental reporting, another issue was that they didn't produce or create the producer price index, was not created either. So last week, the Commerce Department announced that the U.S. trade deficit fell 24% in August as the aggressive tariff policy has pushed imports lower. And one positive of this is that it could potentially drive up Q3 real GDP, which actually subtracts purchases of foreign products in creating that number. Although delayed due to the shutdown, economists believe that this will support fairly strong economic growth for the quarter once they reveal that information. Also late last week, President Trump announced that he was cutting tariffs on many staple foods, including beef, coffee, fruit, vegetables, and others, saying that they may have contributed to higher consumer prices. So actually rolling back some of those tariffs to kind of reduce food costs. The most recent bellwether 10-year U.S. Treasury yield last week was at 4.15%, which has been up about 10 basis points over the past month. And this is important that most long-term mortgage rates are priced based on this index. So we've actually seen long-term mortgage rates actually go up a little bit over the last month. Over the past few months, I've been tracking the Consumer Confidence Index with the October rate remaining steady at 94.6 compared to 94.2 in September. And this is really driven when you get into the data by continued concerns regarding future job availability and also ongoing concerns over tariff impacts on pricing. Data on recent housing starts was also impacted by the ongoing government shutdown. So I don't have any current information to report there either at the national level. At the regional level, I typically provide data on several markets within Deschutes County. The September Bend single-family residential market showed a median sales price that increased to $778,000 for the month, which was up quite a bit over $713,000 in September. With 162 sales for the month of October, 47 of these sales were above $1 million and 49 of these were cash sales. So we still see a large percentage of total sales actually being cash sales in the Bend market. It was interesting that days on market for sold properties actually extended out to 66 days, which was nearly triple from the seasonal low point of 21 days in July. So what's selling is actually on the market for quite a bit longer than what it was before. So I would say in general, the kind of the market frenzy has died down, even though the price has gone up. Inventory levels have dropped to a 3.5 months supply of homes currently listed. Some of that is seasonally driven as individuals are choosing not to list their homes if they don't need to. So we're actually seeing inventory numbers coming back down. And Bend area single family home building permits increased to 56, which was up from 45 in September. The Redmond statistics saw a decline in the median price to $515,000 in October, which was down from $530,000 in September. Redmond area permits increased to 18 for the month of October, which was up quite a bit from 6 in September. Sales in the Redmond market have basically vacillated between that $510,000 to say $530,000 median sales price. But again, it really is our kind of our affordable housing market for Central Oregon within proximity to Bend. Looking at some other markets within Deschutes County, Sisters had a median sales price of $657,000 on only 4 sales, so not a large test. The Sun River market had a median sales price of $830,000 on 14 sales, and La Pine market $395,000 median sales price on 7 sales, which was up from $357,000 the prior month. So, so that concludes my comments on economic conditions. Any questions on that? Hearing none. I'll move on to the treasurer's report. Go ahead.
I would ask, so, are you tracking all the Supreme Court discussion of the tariffs?
Yeah, and that, I don't know if they're actually gonna hear that argument in December as originally. The more I read about it, the more likely it is that it would probably be a January event. So again, they haven't ruled on the legality of the president actually implementing the tariff policy
So until.
as he has. So until that
Until they
gets
rule,
resolved.
the tariffs stay.
Yeah, and I don't know how any kind of a rollback of tariff activity might look, but that is still out there, and I'm glad you brought that up. So that has not been finalized yet.
Yeah, and I mean, the prospect of them ruling that, the president doesn't have that authority, and then whether we need to pay back the tens of billions of dollars of tariffs we've collected on stuff, I think that's a whole other question.
Yeah, and I'm not even gonna delve into that right now because very difficult to quantify right now. But it's certainly something that we want to continue to track and follow on. So for October, the October Treasurer's Report, the portfolio balance was $369.4 million at month end, which was an increase of $66.1 million over September of last year, and an increase of, over September of this year, and an increase of $89.6 million from last year. We're not suddenly rich. This increase was principally due to timing of incoming tax receipts and processing of a large $63 million tax turnover that took place on November 3rd. So month end this year, or this for October, fell on a Friday, and then we processed a large turnover on the following Monday. So it was simply a timing difference, other than anything else. Net investment earnings were $1,011,000 for the month, which was $5,700 higher than last month's earnings. And that was primarily higher due to the little bit higher average portfolio balance, but it was $198,500 higher than a year ago. I commented earlier that we are starting to see the impact of overall reductions in our portfolio balance and the impact that is having on our interest earnings on the portfolio. All portfolio category balances are well within policy guidelines. For the month of October, the LGIP rate remained at 4.5%, although the rate did drop to 4.4% on November 17th. The First Interstate Bank rate was 3.95% for October, but it also lowered to 3.85% on November 3rd. Overall portfolio yields dipped slightly to 4.18%, very slightly. It's basically flat. Down from 4.19% for the prior month. The 5-year maturity distribution schedule reflects recent investment activity that I made, basically pushing out our investments out beyond 3 years again. And I'm very much focused on doing that right now as I'm entering into my current investment cycle with the recent influx of tax receipts. I'm currently invested out to May of 2029. So continuing to push out that 3-year investment ladder. As of the end of October, with recent redemptions, the portfolio had a weighted term to maturity of 0.83 years. And the maximum maturity as of the end of October was slightly less than 3 years, but it's been pushed out beyond that now. With continued strong short-term liquidity, so we're still targeting in kind of that $40 to $50 million that we're retaining as short-term liquidity, and the majority of those funds are earning the LGIP rate. And but as I've indicated before, the LGIP rate is trending downwards right now. And I went out and looked at some information on the LGIP investments. The majority of those investments are invested out only 3 months. So we have certainly benefited by the inverted yield curve over the last 6 to 9 months, but that benefit is going away. And so we're going to continue to see the LGIP rate trend downwards, along with our FIB rate.
So LGIP is higher than the bond rate right now. So just basically being parallel for a little while.
It's, yeah, and it will continue to go down. So, and that's just the reality of where we are in the investment cycle that we're in. So, any questions on any of that?
So
Thank you.
I guess for the bonds, I know there's lots of US treasuries and all the different things. Is corporate gonna be? coming
Yeah,
online
interesting that you
different?
bring that up. I'm actually focused on some corporates. The last three investment tranches that I made, I'm picking up some additional corporates that meet obviously the investment criteria with our investment policy, but there's some opportunities out there. The challenge with a lot of corporates right now is that they're callable. It's hard to find bullet corporates that don't have a callable feature. So we have limited exposure to callable bonds in our portfolio right now. So I feel like it's an appropriate move to maybe take on a little bit more risk there with the, the underlying risk is that they might be called at some point in the future. But there are some opportunities there with some corporate investments.
Just because, yeah, it looked like the last couple of years it's treasuries, and all of a sudden that'll change too.
Well, that was a great opportunity with
Yeah.
treasuries being where they were pricing wise, yield wise, I should say.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you bet.
Great, thank you, Bill.
Next up, finance report, October. Third of the way through.
Great. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Robert Tintel, Chief Financial Officer. So yep, we're going through the financial statements for the October period ending October 31st, 2025, which is 33% through the fiscal year. So a summary, you should have in your packet starting on page 49, a high-level summary of the general fund with the dashboard. Basically, both revenues and expenditures are in line with where they were last year. You can see the percentages and the dollar value amounts are about the same. As far as the beginning fund balance, there on the highlight general fund, beginning fund balance 23.2 million or 110% of the budgeted amount. Just wanted to remind the commissioners in December, we will be coming, Cam Sparks will be, budget manager, will be coming to the board and we'll be doing that true up. And this is the same for all funds of what we budgeted for beginning working capital in this current fiscal year to what it actually is. So what it ended in the last year. So eventually those numbers will line up for the general fund. Just pointing out on the dashboard that green bar curve under resources, we're at 8.8 million right now. 18% collected. Just a reminder, that's because October represents we started getting in some tax revenues, but as you know, the majority comes in November. So you'll see that bar go way up real soon here for next month's report. Next, page 50 is the FTE report, the position control summary. This month, we did see a 2.75 decrease from last month in the total number of FTE. And there's a footnote there with the two positions, 1.75 decrease in health services due to the expiration of the limited duration positions and a 1.0 FTE decrease in victims assistance, also due to the expiration of their limited duration position there. So overall, again, we kind of remain at 10%, 10.27. Of the unfilled is the rate so far this year, and we've been averaging that. You will notice the sheriff, they're at that 36.50 FTE, and I think at some point they'll probably come forward with and they're debating on to let go some of those FTE that they know they're not going to fill. And then once that does happen, I think that would change the percentages in our FTE report as well. Health Services has 39.08 unfilled positions as of this October report. Fair and Expo 7, but I know they're working on one of those. And HR had 3 at this point. And those are just some higher, some of the accounts that had higher percentages for those. Next, page 51, projected personnel costs and overtime report. Basically, the overtime report is right on target. And in fact, the overtime report for the sheriff's office, it's right on it, which is the largest user of overtime at this point. but their total, they're right on track at 33% so far their budget, and we're 33% into the year, so they're.
But didn't they already have all this overtime, like maybe a month or so
They did.
ago
It's
because
all
of
year
the
to date.
fire and everything?
Right, so if they're over at the beginning of the year, it
It blends
smooths
out.
out, exactly. Yep, and only
Okay.
two funds have projected personnel costs by the end of the year, but again, we're still not even halfway through yet, so we'll true those up before there actually is a violation. Skip forward many pages here to the general fund on page 56, which is the detailed report. A few items to note here, you will see on the top section, resources, again, page 56 in your packet. Property taxes current, that second line there under resources. You will see 861,000 in the variance column. That means we adjusted the difference between the budget and where we think we'll be on the projection. And that's, as we mentioned before, the total assessed value came in at 4.9%. over fiscal year 25 versus the 4.58 budgeted. The general fund total was actually 5.4%. So again, and we know we budget conservatively, and then when we get the actual assessed value in, then we make those adjustments here. Other general fund revenues are coming in anticipated 388,000 over from what we budgeted. And again, a lot of that's due to PILT funding. This is the last PILT funding that will receive in this year until and hopefully the feds renew PILT funding and again SRS funding. Those are the two that we're watching overall, but a portion of the PILT funding does go to the general fund. And this year we had a one-time boost because we did get additional PILT money, and otherwise it goes to the road department and natural resources. Yeah, those are the highlights for the general fund. The next page, 57, on juvenile fund 030. Not a lot of change on this report, but they did increase their revenue projections this month compared to last month, and they had a slight increase in their vacancy savings. So overall, their ending fund balance is projected to be 2.5 million at the end of the year. Last month they were projecting 2.3, so a slight, I guess, improvement in this fund, although we know there's challenges there, but they're managing within the revenues and resources that they have. Next, page 58, the TLT fund. And actually, just a word of accolades to the board. I notice everyone's been using the term TLT, quite frank, using it all the time instead of TRT. Doing it probably better than I am even doing it. So yeah, TLT, transit lodging tax. So we made that transition, and that's good. We are estimating that the $600,000 variance, you'll see the top line there for revenues, coming in higher than what we're anticipating. So lodging tax revenue is up 4.9% from fiscal year 25. However, again, it's up 6.6% compared to our actual budget, because again, we did budget conservatively there. For October, and Judy, deputy tax collector, just sent out the reports for transient lodging tax this week. So she was busy with tax season.
It was
so
like 9:30 Saturday
a little
night or
late.
something, I think.
Yeah,
it said.
she's definitely
I noticed that.
working. She's working a lot.
Oh,
Kudos to
boy.
Judy and her team. They're doing a tremendous job. But for October, it was up 7.9%, which made our year-to-date 4.9%, which last month, the year-to-date activity so far was 4.4%. So it is getting a little better. One thing I want to point out on this, on the revenues back at the top of the page, certificate of authority. So far, through October, we've received $60,000. Again, if you may recall, that's that $150 fee for those when we issue the certificate of authority, the renewals. And we started that in September. And we had a big public awareness campaign before we start initiating that fee. So a lot of renewals come forward in July, the first of the year. And of course, a lot of people renewed prior to that fee coming in. So this estimate, I still think, is going to be a little high, but as we get through the year, that estimate we'll probably lower that estimate coming in, because again, July will be the next fiscal year when the big push of people start renewing that fee again. But it is making a small difference at this point, and as people renew, that's when we'll see that revenue.
And Robert,
Yes,
the key is that this will be discretionary funding.
correct.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay,
Meaning
yes.
what comes in above what we project will be discretionary.
Yeah, well, in general, the TLT fund is discretionary. Some of those funds are discretionary, but the, certificate of authority fee, it's not subject to being allocated to, COVA or BCO or the fair or what have you. This is outside of the tax. And so the tax is what has the restrictions on how we allocate it.
I mean, wasn't part of the argument for the, okay. I mean, it is discretionary, but we also have, we have programmatic needs, basically.
Correct. There's administration costs.
That we would like to actually recover.
Yeah, there's about $500,000 we spend in administrative costs, and that's actually that line that's down here, broken out between, in the middle there for budget, administrative 325, interfund charges 113, software 42,000. So you add those up, and that's the fee covers essentially is projected to cover the administrative costs in there.
So will we, going forward as we're budgeting, we can continue to budget conservatively for a certain amount of TLT, but if we are not spending those $400,000 or $500,000 on these administrative costs, or is that what you were just talking about? So now we'll have a little bit of, we will have a little bit of more TLT to work with.
Right. This
That is
provides,
not, that we haven't already obligated to. Capital.
correct. And the way the fund works is the balance in this currently, pending new budget, and Cam and I have talked about how we budget TLT revenues for the next fiscal year, since they are coming in a little higher. So, we always, and then we talk with the budget committee and admin as well on that number. And so we're looking at the forecast for that. But after we have the revenue come in and then the transfer out for all the programs that we're funding, the remaining piece stays within that general county reserve. And so the balance currently as it is any remaining revenue would buffer that account. And that's why you see that line is going to have over projections from what we originally budgeted because of this additional fee. And again, that's subject to budget appropriation, and we'll go through the budget committee with that. But that's the default funding for the county's capital projects, as you recall. Page 61, Sheriff's Office. They too, under resources, the top two lines, property tax current and LED 2, budgeting additional information with their projections there. They'll get additional revenue in for their tax levies, came in for the same amount. This month, the change from last month, they did update their projections under the requirements, that midsection there for all their expenditures. Overall, it's only about $74,000 off, but they did budget for their personnel savings, and then they did put in estimates for potential wage equity impacts as well. So, and that leaves them still within budget. The total fund balance at the very bottom line, they are projecting being 4.4 million higher than what they had budgeted. So ending at 24.6 million instead of 20.2 million on their ending fund balance. Next page, 62 OHP and capital reserves. Again, second month, we're providing this total. So just how you have it, you see it in front of you. Total fund balance right now within the fund is 39.4 million. The projection at the end of the year is also about 39.4 million rounded as well. Behavioral health. The first two pages are similar to last month, so I'll go to for health services rather. Page 65, which is behavioral health fund 274, their program. Their revenues are under 400,000 to budget. When you look at their total there of the variance where they expect, that is a revenue projection increase from last month by about $200,000. So slightly more revenues, even with some of the uncertainty there. They did make a change in their capital or holding out their capital outlay line under the requirements section. You'll see they're projecting right now a difference and being over budget by $1.2 million on capital, but that is also affected by, you see down below, their transfers in from OHP Mental Health, where they're projecting to transfer in more from that fund as well. And of course, they won't go over budget, but we'll do some budget adjustments pending. They'll be coming for the board depending on the outcome of some capital projects. But at least for now, they're including some of those projections. Page 67, Community Development Fund, 295. So the net change in their ending fund balance is only about 215,000 compared to what they presented last month. They did share that their permitting volumes through October continue to trend in alignment with the experience activity from 2014 to 2015 time period, and permitting activity over the most recent 3 years has remained relatively stable. However, year-to-date permitting activity reflects decreases across all permitting categories, including building valuations. So still experiencing, and we're not at that high that we were at, but they are managing within their fund and updating their projections here as well. Next, page 68, Road Fund 325, again, under resources, federal PIL payments. There is no actual dollar amount posted there. It's the second line under resources. There's no actual dollar amount. That will show up next month. We have received the money and it's an accounting issue where we actually received the money in June last year, but it's this year's revenue. So we have to defer it. Well, now that the audit's coming to a conclusion, now we'll actually post those back. So it'll show up now and we have the funds that will be posted there next month. Just looking through changes here. Road CIP Fund 465, page 70. The projection of capital outlay, that did change a little bit from last month. At 17.9 million, that's the middle section there under requirements. They're projecting to underspend by about 968,000. That's just the projects, and you know that projects are also detailed out on page 71 of where they're at on their projects. Fair and Expo. Page 73 for Fund 615. Did want to point out a couple items on this. The first one is under resources, the first line there called events revenue. You'll see a decrease in their expectation under budget by about $1.1 million, and that's for event revenue, but you'll see the corresponding decrease in expenditures under the requirements section. That's for personnel services, by also a similar amount, 1.178, where they're projecting to be at the year end. And that's because, well, the interim fair director and the board decided that they were going to reduce the revenue and related expenditures for event production, since there won't be any fair produced events this year. So originally when the budget
self-produced,
yeah, self-produced, fair produced, internally produced activities.
The previous director was going to do several self-produced events, and so that's why the budget had that revenue and expense. There was one, it was a concert, the Three Dog Nights concert, but there won't be future ones, at least probably till next year.
So when we developed the budget, the fair, and went through the budget committee process, they increased the revenues, but because they knew they were going to have increased expenditures, so they would offset each other. So this is just the recognition. Neither one will occur. So they're just adjusting the projections downward. So that's the change for this fund. A lot of the funds continued as expected, not a lot of change in the next funds, but if you do have any questions, just let me know. There were just some slight increases, which not totally material. Page 79, the risk management fund, 70. The only change in this fund is the total fund balance, the bottom section under fund balance, where it's recognizing that projection of the budget was to bring in beginning fund balance at $9 million, but now that we have almost near final number for fiscal year 25, the number's only at 7.4 million. So it's just recognizing that projection will be lower. And so we updated the fund balance number there by 1.5 million. And this is one, along with all funds, you'll see that adjustment in December. That'll come to the board where it's the true up between the budget and the actuals. So when Cam comes and to you and says, hey, we're changing the budget numbers. This is just why it's just truing up, again, expectations to where it is. And on this fund, it would be about a $1.6 million change. It's actually lowering the resources in that fund. Page 80, health benefits, fund 675. Prescription rebates, actually in the fiscal year 25 column. So just that second column there under actuals, you'll see that at 1.18 million right now. That increased by $300,000 from last month's report, and that's because we got another rebate, which will always take rebates, that related to last fiscal year. So we posted that back to last fiscal year. So now you see that. So we're ending the year, we're at 12.1 million, and this is a near final number. We're hoping to issue our financial reports actually this week, where that's the goal by Wednesday. If not, it'll be early next week. But, so these are really near final numbers. Right now, actuals for this fiscal year total fund balance, we're sitting at 15.6 million. We are projecting to end the year at 13.3 million. So we are in line, we're above our minimum target, but we're at a more healthy level where we prefer the fund to be at.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, definitely a preference.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and that's the report, but if there's any other questions, happy to consider those. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert. Oh, don't forget to use your little scanning thing for all food you're consuming. Yes.
Okay, so other items, then we have executive session today, so say Association of Oregon Counties Conference, the commissioners from around the state, crossing paths with I'm sure all of us, just about everybody we could, so it's really good to see everybody. Aaron Scar, Commissioner from Tillamook County, is going to be the Association of Oregon Chair or President, whatever we call it. Fiscal review, if you guys were at that meeting, she's going to do a kind of the fiscal survey for the counties, either legislative discussions or at least reporting for citizens that the fiscal conditions of counties. They parallel cities and special districts too, but obviously we're counties at that point. And then I'll be on the Public Safety Committee as a co-chair for the Public Safety Committee and Veterans for the Association of Oregon Counties. So I'll be running one of the meetings. Any other thoughts for that? Or, yeah. Well, I can see you ready.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say too.
Yes, who did you run into while you were out running? Please share it with the world.
Yes, we were way out in Alton Baker Park. We and Peter Gutowski, our community development director, and I were, and we were way out in Alton Baker Park, and there was Dan Lanning, the University of Oregon head football coach, walking with his wife. He was just saying, "Go Ducks," and he had a big smile and waved and said thank you. And, yeah, so that was nice to see them out while running. As part of the county administrator meetings on Tuesday, when our vice chair of our association, and everybody said this is probably the most county administrators we've ever had attend this meeting, at least in 20 years. I did not seek an office, but somebody from the Willamette Valley, a fellow county administrator, nominated me, and then they voted for me to serve as president for the year ahead, which comes with a lot of meetings and a big responsibility for our organization, but I certainly accepted and will be happy to serve in that capacity. AOC.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes.
Do we clap? Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you're clapping for me or if you're clapping for Greg's successful nomination.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've been in the County Council Association for 32 years. I've dodged any service.
Wow.
I'm very proud of that.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
You're going public with that too.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. Doesn't happen accidentally.
Yeah.
Gotta be prepared.
Actually, so few people are on those meetings for AOC that I find it incredible. You know, isn't John
The
Lurgy?
associations.
Yes, that, you know, the sheriffs, all these people are supposed to be giving us an update. And if there's usually like 3 people and they'll say no report. And I go like, you know what, I think we really need to pick it up, and we're losing employers and employees in this state, and you know, everything that we can do to make it better, I think it's important. So Nick,
We'll look
I'll be-
there.
Yes.
I'll be there.
you'll be leading.
I'll be there.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I do have another item when we're done with AOC, and that's for Bill Coon, but when they're ready.
Yeah, when we're ready.
Well, one thing I'd like to ask, so a number of people who are interested in the district mapping process are saying they would love to see other people's submitted public comments. And have said, you know, like that they don't see those in you know, in the meeting minutes from the board meetings or anywhere else on that page. So I actually didn't I didn't know, you know, I never thought about it before because I get to see all the public comments, but where are public comments available for the public to view that have been submitted to us? And yeah, so it'd be great to know that so that I can point them in that direction.
I will follow up with Jen, as she's been managing the project all along, and I know certainly Sarah sharing those with the DMAC, but I'll follow up to see if those have been, if they haven't been posted online, I'll see what we can do to get those comments posted.
But I mean, at this point, it's more a question about, you know, our basic citizen input and board email boxes or
any topic.
Yeah, I mean, so on an ongoing basis, you know, when people submit public comments to the board, where do those go that other members of the public see?
Yeah, I'll follow up with her.
Or are we, you know, do we do that? I mean, is that may or may not be, you know, that may or may not be a requirement, but I mean, it seemed like a good idea if people are submitting public comments to the board.
Jen has been posting those, or not posting those, she's maintaining them in a central location, I know that, I don't know what it is, but it'll take her a minute to
You mean like
address that for you.
the stuff that's submitted to the DMAC, right?
Everything that's come in since the DMAC's last meeting, she's segregated it in a different location.
Right, but I guess what I'm asking is now people are writing to the board directly, and people are asking, well, I'm interested in seeing what other members of the public are saying to the board, what kind of public input, you know, like today.
Right.
So
So Jen can go into there and mine those out, she can put them somewhere,
We can coordinate.
if that's what you want, because they're all public record.
Angie generally monitors those and then forwards those to the applicable staff. I will coordinate with Angie and Jen to make sure that happens, and then that we get those posted.
Right.
If they're not, I should, they may not be.
Yeah, but I guess the kind of the overarching question is, do we regularly, you know, after every meeting, we post meeting minutes? But when people submit public comments, are those somewhere where you know anyone could go and look at them? That may not be required of us, but it also might be a valuable thing to do.
Yeah, you're right, Commissioner. Generally, because you receive comments daily of huge volumes, and we don't post those online unless they're specific towards a meeting, as you mentioned. They're public documents, public records. We maintain those, but generally we don't. When it comes to DMAC, I can see if Angie's been forwarding those to Jen because it's a specific topic and project.
Right. Yeah, so I guess, you know, for the DMAC specifically, or the district mapping process specifically, if we're still getting public comments about that, then it would be great to, you know, just tack those on somewhere at the DMAC site or something like that. But I do think it was interesting to ask the bigger question also of, you know, if people are submitting public comments, can other members of the public see those?
I'll follow up.
say you had something else?
Just, our treasurer
Oh, yeah.
and Bill
Yep.
Coon in a different capacity, but when
I think
he's ready,
we're
we're
set.
ready.
Anything else?
No.
We already heard about the Hefner football team, so I think we're
What could
good.
be more important than the Mustangs?
Are you ready for me?
Oh, we always ready for you, Bill.
I'm here in a different capacity this afternoon, one of many. But I would like to ask the county commissioners to consider co-sponsoring a table with me at the upcoming Saints Gala event, which will be Saturday, February 21st, at the River House. It will be another sold-out event. There'll be over 600 people there. I've already committed to a table on my half. And again, I would be splitting would be $5,000 for a silver sponsor table, which provides us with 10 tickets and also admission to a special sponsor reception with St. Charles leadership team beforehand. This is something that I'll be moving in or going into the second year of my chairmanship of the foundation board. And the beneficiary of the event this year is going to be the emergency department, which is 50 years old and serves as the community's front door to St. Charles. And it's woefully outdated and way under or over capacity, I should say. And we're embarking on an ambitious 5-year renovation program that'll be kicked off next year. And I, for one, believe that this is a significant role for Deschutes County to play in terms of supporting public health in Deschutes County. And participation in past events has been greatly appreciated by St. Charles leadership. This is an opportunity again for St. Charles and myself to be in front of a significant issue in this community with growing population and aging facilities that need to be updated to meet current standards and requirements. And so anyway, my ask is that Deschutes County consider a co-sponsorship of that table, which would be $2,500 for the event. And I would love to have your attendance at the event as well. I think that sends a very strong message to St. Charles. I do know that Mosaic Medical, Volunteers Medicine, other community health organizations will be in attendance as well. So it'll be a great opportunity to collaborate and show a united front for public health in Deschutes County.
I can just share with the board that your remaining balance for the fundraising sponsorship items for the year is $2,900.
For the fiscal year running through June. I think this is worthy of sponsorship. I don't know if 2,500 is a doable amount, given that we only have 2,900 in our sponsorship column for the rest of the year. So I would suggest maybe 1,000, which is in line with a number of the other sponsorships we've done in the last few months. That's just my take. Two other things I would say. The emergency department is definitely it is an interface point between St. Charles and county behavioral health. We see, I have actually made an argument to St. Charles Hospital, not to the foundation. I've made an argument to St. Charles Hospital that getting the crisis stabilization center up and running is saving them a lot of staff time and resources because there's a whole lot of people that there's a whole lot of people who law enforcement officers used to clog up the emergency department at St. Charles with, who now they bring to the stabilization center, drop off in under 4 minutes, and then that person never shows up at the emergency department at all, which is good because a lot of those people who would sit in the emergency department waiting room for 4 hours, then we're not ill enough to be admitted into the hospital. And so, you know, they would sit in the waiting room, they would use emergency department staff time, and then they didn't even become kind of part of the patient base of the hospital. So I, you know, maybe somewhere along the way, people could recognize that that's a contribution that the county's making to the emergency department.
I will share that there's been some internal discussions along those lines as well. So I just, obviously isn't the time or place right now to help solve for that. But
No.
I think continued interaction with St. Charles senior leadership team and thorough understanding of how funding occurs within the county and where some of these benefits lie. Like it's certainly worth. But again, this is an opportunity to be out there in front and a significant community event to show support for collaboration and in terms of trying to solve some of these significant problems.
Thoughts?
So it happens to be the 4 days of NACO in DC, the 21st to the 24th of February. I would support doing 1,500. I don't know. Is there someone else that could come up with that other 1,000 that you need then? If we did 1,500?
Let's, whatever you agree to here, and then I'll go back and see what I can do to either make up the difference.
Definitely we need to support our healthcare system. So
And then you're gonna go to NACO?
because we only have 2,900,
100%
I
sure,
would say 1,500. That leaves 1,400 in the balance. We still have quite a few months left of the year.
So it sounds like we're working our way out, but 15 may be appropriate for a commitment.
I feel
for
like this
today.
is an auction.
But
We keep.
I mean, now that NACO's happened, and I don't think I was planning on going specifically, but that's our National Association DC at the same time too.
Does that mean that you are planning on attending, Commissioner Deere?
I don't know. I just know that it's my
Yeah, not
husband's
that far.
birthday on the 24th too.
See, we got all kinds of things
I've got
happening
like
here.
5 things happening those 4 days.
Trying to get the date out early enough so everybody.
I know.
But you already knew.
But we knew
But NACO
because
beat you to it.
I had
we beat,
nothing to do with.
we moved the Sun River
Yeah.
event till the 26th.
Uh-huh.
So just because of those dates already. So I did know that.
I have gone to the National Association of Counties legislative conference every year since I've been a commissioner. And so I'm pretty likely to go, but I'm not 100% committed yet.
Okay.
Well, let's commit to that $1,500,
Right,
which is
is
the
that okay?
sponsorship.
So do I need a
And
motion?
then go from there.
You comfortable with that number?
Yes.
Well, I mean, before we do that, I mean, I just wanna, I do wanna say, we are only in November, and this is a fiscal year that runs until, the end of June, so.
I actually saw that Bend was the #1 tourist destination for this weekend. They repeated it like every 10 minutes on KBND this morning. So if everybody's moving here, hopefully they're not all staying in Bend and our revenue is gonna be, still really good, even though our snow is
So lodging
minimal.
tax will be up, you're
Yeah,
thinking.
they kept saying it was the #1 destination for the Northwest ahead of Seattle and Portland.
We do sponsorships out of lottery funds. That is correct.
Yeah, sponsorships on a video lottery, is that what you said?
Yes.
Yes.
So I mean.
Okay, well then, they'll
We-
hope they
we
gamble.
do have a reserve in that fund, and I'm comfortable with a $1,500 allocation for this sponsorship. If we are if we can put on the table that we might need to add 5,000 more bucks from the reserves for the video lottery fund, for other sponsorships as they come up in the winter, spring, and early summer.
You wanna make that part of this motion now, or just keep the door open for that conversation in the future?
I would love to, see a signal of support for that before we voted on this.
So I know that, we have some flexibility at a small level with reserve, so I do support the fact that if that needs to come up, we can discuss it. So $1,500, is there a motion?
I move that we allocate $1,500 as a sponsorship for the St. Charles Foundation's Gala in February.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Seeing none. Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
Commissioner Adair,
Sure.
and Chair votes yes. So, yeah, let's talk, I mean, maybe it's personal kicking in at this time.
Yeah, we'll figure that out.
We'll make sure table, and then even if
Each of
commissioners aren't here, we've got health directors, department heads, all kinds of people.
We
that
do,
can
and
be there.
we'll fill the table. Each of you are cordially invited to attend as well, so know that that date is out there, and we'll start filling the list of attendees, and very much appreciate the county's support. Sir.
Aren't you glad you asked really early?
Honestly, not
early
early enough.
Okay,
Thank
anything
you.
else for other items? Seeing that executive session.
Okay, the Deschutes County Board of Commissioners will now convene an executive session pursuant to ORS 192.660. The specific authorization for this executive session is ORS 192.660 subsection 2A and 2B. The board to meet in order to discuss employment of a public employee and also litigation. Designated staff and the media are allowed to remain during the executive session. However, the media may only report that the board met in executive session and the identified basis for meeting in executive session. Recording devices are not permitted. No final decisions will be made, and at the conclusion, we will open the doors and invite the audience back to the meeting.
Afternoon, Commissioners, Sheriff.
Wait, sorry, I need to stop.
Okay, it's 2:54, we're back from an executive session. And there is a simple motion.
Yes, I will move that the tender request from Delance be denied.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Garrett,
Yes.
Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
and Chair votes yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything else for this meeting?
We will need to
Oh,
return to executive
Oh, okay.
session for ORS 192.660 2A.
Another executive session.
Correct.
Thank you. So we're back from executive session. Commissioner Dare had to go for the day, but is there anything else for this meeting? And seeing none, please proceed as discussed and meeting adjourned.